You're listening to Inside the Nest with Isaac Donsky. Welcome back to Inside the Nest, your in-depth look at the world of CCBC Catonsville athletics. I'm your host, Isaac Donsky, and man, we have got a great episode today, everybody. First off, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in for the first few episodes. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we wouldn't be where we are today without the support of viewers like you. So, from us, we say truthfully, thank you. Today's episode, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got an exclusive interview with our new athletic director, Leslie Ray. We've got a bunch of games to recap for both women's and men's basketball, both teams of which are playing in the region tournament as of this recording. Plus, we've got the start of the baseball and softball seasons with a wild home series by the baseball team. And finally, intramural sports are back, and you can find out all the information you need to know at the end of today's episode. With that being said, we're going to jump right into it and get started by recapping basketball right after these messages.
Do you think I'd be a good nurse?
We'd be a great nurse. But at CCBC, there's also dental hygiene, medical imaging, surgical tech.
Do you have all these memorized?
No, you're reading them. And I'm you. So.
CCBC. See what you can be.
Welcome back to the show. First things first, let's talk about basketball. Now, when we left off last time, the basketball season was in the midst of a wild roller coaster. If you remember, I sat down with head coach Great White. We discussed the basketball season, and he described it just like that, a roller coaster. And he is not wrong. This season has just been crazy, up and down, twists and turns, every direction. Man, I'm getting dizzy just thinking about it. Now, the 2023 regular season has come to a close. The Cardinals, they were able to qualify for the region tournament as the 8th seed, and they actually are set to play Frederick the evening that this show is being recorded, and we will have the results of that to you in next month's episode. I know, you have to wait a month to find out what happened. Hey, that's what happens sometimes. Now, when we last left off, the Cardinals were preparing for the Randy Gregory tournament, a kind of mini tournament midway through the season where they would play some of the best prep schools in the country to determine if they were ready for the region tournament. And guess what? They were. Not only did they win all 3 of their tournament games, they won the whole thing, and went on a 4-game winning streak in the process. The Cardinals now faced a gauntlet of teams they had to beat in order to make it to the region tournament, and it was not going to be easy. After falling to Prince George's County, the Cardinals responded with a dominant victory over WVU Potomac State, putting up 96 points, their season high. But then 3 straight losses, a 62-56 loss to Chesapeake, a 93-90 loss to Southern Maryland, and a painful 84-56 loss to Howard, the same school that the Cardinals will have to play in the region tournament. Now the question was, can they even qualify? Well, there was a gauntlet in front of them, and they prevailed. Catonsville started things off slowly with a 93-70 victory over CCBC Dundalk, their sister school. Then it was an 84-77 victory over Harford Community College. 1 week to go, Cardinals take care of business against Garrett, right? No, they don't. They lose 84-65, a crucial loss, and suddenly it all comes down to one final game. It all came down to one game. Montgomery College was in town, Raptors taking on the Cardinals, and folks, let me tell you, this was the game of the year. First of all, it's sophomore night. 5 stellar sophomores, Austin Smith, Maury Smith, Jalen Yates, Keith Bullock, and Christopher Johnson playing their final games, and Coach Great White decided to have all 5 of them play pretty much the entire game. We didn't see a lot of the freshmen, but their time is coming. Watch for them next season. Meanwhile, the game also was the final home game for Coach White. He, of course, is transitioning into his new role as the athletic director over at our sister campus, CCBC Dundalk. So for him, this was a special game as well. Following the ceremonies for sophomore night, the game got underway and the Cardinals came out of the gate swinging. They took a 35-27 lead at the half. They looked unstoppable. But in the second half, things tightened up. The Raptors started to come back, and suddenly everyone's thinking, we might not make the region tournament if this happens. The Raptors take the lead, but the Cardinals respond. Suddenly, bam! It is a back-and-forth contest. Back and forth, the lead changing constantly. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I'm losing my mind from my commentary seat. It is unbelievable. Final seconds of the game, it's coming down to the wire. We're tied at 66 all. Montgomery has the ball, dribble down the court. They have a chance to get a shot off, but they get the ball to the wrong player. They take the shot clock all the way down, and they get it to the wrong player who gets off a shot. Hits the rim, won't go in. Rebound is fought for. There's a scrum for the ball. Maury Smith comes out with the ball, and there's a foul. He's headed to the line. We're over the foul limit. Maury Smith goes up to the foul line, misses his first free throw, but makes the second. Cardinals lead 67-66, 1 point and 3 seconds away from the region tournament. Montgomery still has 3 seconds. They can still score if they make it down the court, but thanks to a great pressure from Keith Bullock Jr., another sophomore, Montgomery is forced into a half-court shot. They miss, and the Cardinals are headed to the region tournament, where they will play the Dragons of Howard Community College. They should be playing around the time that this audio is being recorded, so we will have the results for you in next month's episode. But man, what a way to end the season for the Cardinals. Now, for the Lady Cardinals, the 2022-2023 season got off to an excellent start. They were 9-5. Freshman Anna Thomas was averaging 30 points per game. Fellow freshmen Anaya Tillery and KC, Kayla Cabbage were dominating. And let's not forget about the returning sophomores, Amari McKnight and Destiny Perry. Everyone was contributing. Everyone was firing on all cylinders. And the team had just had a dominant victory over PG County. Then the injury bug struck. The Cardinals dropped 9 straight games. It was rough. Every time a player would get healthy, another player would go down, and there were a couple injuries that ended up ending those players' seasons, particularly Anna Thomas, who was unable to participate in a large chunk of the second half of the season due to injury. This was rough to watch, but the Cardinals, they persevered. They kept fighting. Most of their losses during this losing streak, they were only a few points. It came down to the final buzzer. The Lady Cardinals showed a level of strength and dexterity we have never seen before, and as a result, coming into the final game of the regular season against Allegheny, sophomore night once again, celebrating the careers of both Destiny Perry and Amari McKnight, the Cardinals found themselves in a position where if they could beat Allegheny, they could clinch a region tournament berth. Well, guess what happened? They dominated. It wasn't as close as the men's, but it didn't have to be. They won 71-48, completely dismantling the Trojans and punched their ticket to the region tournament. Now, the Cardinals will have to play their sister school, CCBC Essex, the number 1 team in Region 20 and the number 1 team in NJCAA Division 2. So, victory it's a little bit out of reach at the moment, but anything can happen in the world of basketball, and I think that the Cardinals might put up a good fight. Remember, earlier this season, and we talked about this last episode, the Cardinals were able to outscore and outplay CCBC Essex in the first half of their contest. Now, Essex came back to win, but the Cardinals showed, yeah, we're not going to go down without a fight, and I think that can happen again today. Now, we won't know the results until later this afternoon after we've recorded, and you won't know the results until next month's episode, but let's just say this. Go Cardinals! No matter what happens, this season has proven that these ladies can fight through anything, and man, I cannot wait to see these talented players coming back for next year when these freshmen become sophomores and just dominate. When we come back, an exclusive interview with our new athletic director, Leslie Ray, plus a look at the start of the softball and baseball seasons, and a preview of upcoming intramural sports.
I need a better career. Yeah, seriously. But hey, I'm just your imagination. What would I do? Get out in the field, do something in the trades. Maybe an electrician. No, let's work with our hands. The money's great as an auto tech. Why has nobody brought up teaching?
We would be an amazing teacher.
Except teachers don't dress like that.
With more than 280 programs and certifications, CCBC can help your most ambitious dreams take shape.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. Each episode of Inside the Nest, we try to bring you an exclusive interview with a member of our CCBC Catonsville staff or a student athlete. And for this month's edition of the interview, we sat down with our brand new athletic director, Leslie Ray, to talk to her about her new role here at Catonsville and what her expectations are for her time here on the Catonsville campus. You folks at home, enjoy. So I am here with the new athletic director of the CCBC Catonsville Cardinals, Mrs. Leslie Ray. Leslie, how are you doing today?
Doing great, thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm glad that we're able to get this conversation in. So first of all, the people probably listening at home probably want to know, like, who is Leslie Ray? So tell us a little bit about your backstory. What brought you to CCBC Catonsville?
Yeah, I'm super excited to move I was at CCBC Dundalk for the past 4 years. I started in 2019 and made the transition when Melissa Miller became the director of athletics for all 3 campuses. So I'm only about a mile from here. I live about a mile from here with my family, and it seemed like a natural fit. Being from Catonsville, having my kids at Catonsville High School and living here for the past 20 years, really invested in the community and, want to do well here with the Cardinals.
So you have said in the past you've had prior background in sports. You were a coach before, correct?
Yeah, my first career, I really consider this as a second career for me in athletic administration. Right upon graduating, I started as a student athlete at Essex Community College at the time, and transferred on to Maryland, but stayed involved in athletics. I started as an assistant coach at Towson University for the women's soccer team, went on to graduate school at University of Missouri. Upon graduation, came back home and was the head coach at Towson. And then most recently was the head coach at UMBC for their women's soccer team.
So what experiences did you have in coaching that can help with transitioning to working in athletic administration, you think?
Well, the first piece with coaching is that you have direct contact and influence with student athletes. And that's what, I think all of us within athletics really enjoy is being hands-on with student athletes and making sure, that they're getting the most out of their experience and, really striving for goals that they want to reach just within athletics and in school and in life. So, after finishing my coaching career, I knew I wanted to stay within athletics because I enjoy that aspect of it, of being around student athletes. I really enjoy being around coaches. I feel like with 20 years of experience at that level, I can bring that to some of the coaches here and build relationships with the student athletes as well.
Once again, I want to thank Leslie for sitting down with me. Each month on Inside the Nest, we'll have a new interview with a member of our CCBC Catonsville staff, coaches, or student athletes in a section we're just going to title The Interview, because it makes sense to do so. When we come back, we'll take a look at the start of the baseball and softball seasons with another new segment, Isaac on Location. Inside the Nest will be right back after these messages.
You know how we're always like, I can't go back to school because I have bills. Well, CCBC has apprenticeship programs in the trades, so we could earn while we learn. And if we were an electrician, we could fix that.
CCBC. See what you can be.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. Guess what time it is? Pitchers and catchers report. Baseball and softball have kicked off here at CCBC Catonsville. And man, considering how exciting both seasons were last year, we can't wait to see what this season has in store. We've decided to do something a little interesting and a little unique to start off the baseball season. And that's a section we like to call Isaac on Location. Well, we're doing something a little unprecedented for the podcast. We're actually on location. If you can hear the wind, that's because we're standing just beyond the outfield fence here at the CCBC Catonsville Cardinals baseball complex. And I thought being on location on this beautiful March day would provide a better sense of atmosphere for the recap of the baseball season so far. Cardinals baseball has kicked off their season. There's a lot of anticipation for this year. The Cardinals, as you know, finished last season as runner-ups in Region 20. They lost in the region tournament final to Frederick County Community College, a game that, well, to be honest, they probably should have won. And that was the case for the Cardinals coming into their first road trip of the season as they headed out to Florida to play some of the top JUCO teams in the nation. Unfortunately, they went 1-6 during this season opening road trip, but it was just a test to see what would happen. When the Cardinals returned home following their 1-6 road trip, there was just one thing on the mind of every player: win. They had 4 games coming up in the weekend, facing off against Sussex County Community College from New Jersey and Lakeland Community College from Ohio. The question was, could the Cardinals get the win? The answer was yes and no. The first game of the series was supposed to be held against Sussex County on Friday, but heavy rain pushed that game back to Saturday and eventually canceled it. The Saturday game would see the Cardinals fall 10-5 to Sussex County, and now panic bells were starting to ring. That's 7 losses in the first 8 games. Something's got to happen to turn it around. Well, something did. I'm currently standing just outside of the right field, where during Sunday's doubleheader against Lakeland, the Cardinals made a statement. Game 1, complete and utter domination. Catonsville only allowed a single home run and won 11-1, the game ending in the bottom of the 6th thanks to the mercy rule as the Cardinals built up a 10-run lead. Lakeland actually didn't know about the mercy rule, it seemed, as they were quite confused at the end of the game when it ended in the bottom of the 6th. But Lakeland used their frustration from the first game to make things interesting for the second game. Very interesting. Game 2 was tightly contested, and the Lakers took a 2-0 lead deep into the contest. Now, thanks to a big-time hit from Cardinals batter Jalen Williams, one of the stellar young freshmen on the team, the Cardinals were able to get within 1 run. It all came down to the bottom of the 7th. 2 outs, 2 on board, 1 batter to decide it all. In comes Caleb Bailey, the sophomore outfielder who was not playing this game. He played the first game. Bailey steps up to the plate and gets down to his final strike. He's got 1 chance to put this contest away and to give the Cardinals a sweep of the Lakers and their 2nd straight win. Pitch is thrown. Bailey swings. And right where I'm standing right now, just outside of the right field fence, right by a grove of trees, the ball lands. A 3-run home run walk-off hit for Caleb Bailey to give the Cardinals a 4-2 victory over Lakeland, a series sweep, and a much-needed shot of adrenaline for the young season. Now, I caught up with Bailey after the game, and here's what he had to say about scoring the winning run and also giving the Cardinals much-needed momentum after their Florida road trip. So first of all, how does it feel to hit the walk-off home run? Get the series win.
It feels great. I just wanted to help the team out. We were struggling throughout the game, and it's finally fun to get through with a big hit to score some runs to win the game for us. So it was very fun.
Back-to-back wins. Does this give you guys some momentum after the rough start to the season with Florida?
I believe so, because on Tuesday and Thursday we have a Dundalk game, so that's our first conference game, and I think we'll bring a lot of intensity and we're going to come out firing, and hopefully we'll win those first 2 games in our conference.
All right. Thank you. We're back inside. It's nice and toasty and warm after that bitterly cold walk down to the CCBC Catonsville Cardinals baseball complex, but it had to be done. Isaac on location is going to be a fun new segment we're going to try to do for each episode of Inside the Nest, where I'm live on the scene, whether that be while a game is going on or while a game's not going on, which was the case in the first edition. Anyway, we have one more sport to recap, and that is softball. We saved the best for last so far. The softball season got off to a hot start as the Cardinals were on a road trip of their own. They traveled to Virginia and North Carolina to take on some of the top community colleges in NJCAA, and they started things off with an 8-6 loss to Florence Darlington Technical College. Now, the Cardinals turned it around in their next 2 games with a win over Patrick and Henry, a 6-5 victory, and an 11-9 victory over Corning Community College, but then they suffered an 11-0 loss to Lewisburg College, Lewisburg being one of the best schools in the NJCAA. The Cardinals would drop their next 2 games as well, falling 8-7 to Patrick and Henry Community College and 4-1 to Surrey Community College in the first game of a doubleheader. But in the second game, the Cardinals forced extra innings and won 8-6. It's been a hot start to the season for these Cardinals, and considering that the team has more players than they did last year, I think we can expect for this team to be a tad more competitive. Last season's team was very talented, but unfortunately, they fell victim to only having 9 available players, and when one player got hurt, well, you can't play games with 8 players. This year's Cardinals team has a much bigger lineup, and as a result, we've already seen a really strong start to the season in terms of statistics. Leading the way for the Lady Cardinals has been freshman Morgan Gross, who's batting .417 with 3 runs, 10 hits, 2 doubles, and 7 RBIs. Already she's making a name for herself. The Cardinals also have a much improved pitching core. Their lead pitcher so far has been freshman Kaylee Rochelle, who in 7 appearances has 1 win and is pitching an ERA of 5.31. But remember, there's returning sophomore Felicity Voss you got to contend with. Voss hasn't pitched as many innings as Rochelle has, but she has still made an impact with already an ERA of 7.24. Now remember, it is early in the season, so we can't expect those numbers to go down, but still a good start to the season for the Lady Cardinals, and we expect great things from them once their home schedule starts in the coming weeks. When we come back, one last look at intramural sports, and then we will sign off the third ever episode of Inside the Nest.
Choosing a career is harder than I thought.
What's so hard about choosing to be a nurse? Saving lives. Or protecting the world from cyber threats. In sweats, tech is the future. Yeah, but business is everything, and everything is business.
That's deep.
Did we just think of that?
With more than 280 programs and certifications, CCBC can help your most ambitious dreams take shape.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. We've got just one more thing to talk about before we wrap up today's jam-packed episode, and that is the return of intramural sports. Intramural sports were a mainstay here at CCBC Catonsville until the COVID-19 pandemic unfortunately resulted in their cancellation, but we're bringing them back. Yep, the final puzzle piece to return to normalcy is back as we are bringing back intramurals. Now, we asked you, the students, on social media, what you think we should bring back, and you overwhelmingly voted for capture the flag, soccer, and flag football. So those are our three sports that we're going to be bringing back for intramurals. Every Tuesday, soccer will be held from 2 to 3 p.m. on the turf field at our CCBC Catonsville Cardinals Athletic Complex, and every Thursday, it'll either be capture the flag or flag football. We're going to alternate depending on which week it is. More information is going to be made available in the coming weeks prior to the start of intramurals on March 14th. Get excited, everyone. Intramural sports are back. Well, that's going to do it for this month's episode of Inside the Nest. I want to give a special shout out to Kate Dibble, who handles the editing process and is responsible for most of the behind-the-scenes work for the podcast. Without her, this show wouldn't even exist. A special shout out goes to CCBC for sponsoring us, and of course, a big thank you to the fans. Without your support, there wouldn't be any reason to do this show in the first place. Next month, we're going to take a look at the continuation of baseball and softball, plus the results of the region tournament. Can Catonsville basketball pull an upset? You're going to have to wait until next month to find out. Or you could check our official website, ccbccatonsvillecardinals.com, to see the results early, but hey, if I'm you, I want the anticipation of waiting. This is Isaac Donsky signing off. You've been listening to Inside the Nest.